Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, How to Optimize Supply Chain Collaboration, The Road to a Unified Automotive Value Stream. My name is Laurel Heenan, and I am delighted to be your moderator for this webinar. Before I introduce you to our presenters, let me cover a few housekeeping details. This webinar is being recorded, and we will provide you all with a link to the recording tomorrow. As you may have noticed, all attendees are on mute to avoid background noise. But that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. We will leave time at the end for questions and answers, but if you have any questions or comments as we go, please type them in the GoToWebinar control panel in the questions box. I'll be monitoring the questions and we'll get them organized for questions and answers at the end. Our presenters today are Adam Somorjai and Trevor Bruner. With an education in business IT and business development and several years of experience working with enterprise software solutions, Adam has an expertise to understand and respond to complex customer needs. As Intland Software's senior pre-sales consultant, Adam is helping global enterprises to develop better products faster. Trevor Bruner is a senior product manager at Tasktop. His varied background ranging from financial services, oil and gas, to U.S. Navy submarine officer has helped him manage all the responsibilities inherent in building a valuable product. At Tasktop, he enjoys the opportunity to teach customers about the vast capabilities of Tasktop. And with that, I will pass the presentation to Trevor to begin the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. So, in today's software development world, we realize that there's an undeniable digital disruption across all major industries. You've all heard the phrase, software is eating the world. Well, ironically enough, its appetite is becoming ever more voracious. Entire industries are being disrupted by software and the value that that takes to your customers. And the interesting thing is that automotive world is absolutely no different than other areas we see. We've been building cars as a society for about 100 years or so, and historically the major innovations have been mechanical. We've been building faster engines, better crumple zones, smoother shock absorbers, and while we've been adding in ever more electronics to cars as well, for things like simple things like electric windows, the antennas automatically going up and down, to more complex things like lane assist and automatic parallel parking. And so while you see here that the physical parts of a car have somewhat leveled off, the electronic parts have been continuing to grow at a fairly modest pace. Interestingly enough, the amount of software that's going into automobiles is growing incredibly fast. It's simply exploding with all of the logic inside of our vehicles today. Here's just an example of the different computer-assisted pieces of a car. Everything from night vision, electric engine control, the fuel injection system, anti-lock braking, the parallel parking assist. All of those things are run by processors, which means that there's code involved, which means that there's requirements, that means that there's testing involved, and which means that there's some company out there, whether it be you or a vendor or somebody else, who's building all of that code. And so as an example of this, you can see here an example of just some of the startups that are trying to disrupt various parts of an automobile. There's an amazing amount of competition out there. And so you are either competing against these companies, and they're trying to take your space, or you're working with them and you're taking their expertise and integrating it into with your company and working together. So software, so either way, you need to be fast and deliver the right stuff to your customers. And so software is everywhere in vehicles these days, and I don't think that most of the people commuting to work, to or from work in the mornings or evenings, recognize that they're driving basically mobile computers nowadays. It's unfathomable to most people in cars, in vehicles, but you all on this call are very familiar with this. And so even though we have all these companies building automotive software, it's definitely not an easy space. Not only are there different teams involved within organizations, but again, very often there's different companies that have to work together. And not only that, there's compliance requirements that you have to meet, And it's hard enough to do that within a single tool, and it gets really challenging when you're talking about different teams, different organizations using different tool sets. So you have to have this, this cross-team communication, adherence to standards, the traceability, and it's really not easy. And so at Tasktop, we get to see a wide variety of organizations that try to build software faster. And so we ask ourselves, how can we deliver software faster? And what we figured out, though, is that it's not just about building software faster, it's about building the right software faster. So it's not just getting things out the door, it's getting the right things out the door. And so a lot of companies in this trying to build the right stuff faster enter into these different software transformations. Safe, Agile, Scrum, Kanban, etc. There's all these different ways to do it, and they all have their own value. None of them are inherently better or worse, but all of these depend on the underlying communication channels of your organizations. And if you don't have that fundamental communication channel, without that, any of these transformations are going to fail. So let me show you an example of the type of thing I'm talking about here. So you've got these 4 teams: feature team, testing, security, and architectural team. So you have a request that comes in, and it sits on the backlog for a while. And then you have another request come in, and then a few more, and you realize that these 4 really comprise a couple of features. And so you decide to start on this first feature, and you realize that you break that down into epics and stories, and you start working on those stories. And now one of those stories causes a test to kick off. And so you have to send the test status, the testing to the testing team, and the status has to flow back to the feature team. Another story generates an architectural change, but then has its own stories that has to happen there. Your security team finds a bug related to one of the stories. And so you can see there's this big cross-team communication that has to happen, and all these different groups are using different tools. So how do you collaborate and have that communication flow seamlessly? It only gets worse when you have cross-functional feature teams, where you have all of that in one team, and then you have multiple of these feature teams, which each have cross-team dependencies. And now sometimes these are different teams in one organization, and sometimes these are different teams across companies. So allowing that cross-team communication is vital to ensuring the traceability and compliance that you have to have. And so what Tasktop does is we facilitate this flow of information. And so we take this big networked idea up here and make sure that the information is flowing properly before you get to the code complete piece and that your code goes to the CI/CD pipeline. Even then, we take information that's flowing from your CI/CD pipeline and it's flowing back up into your ALM tool suite. So that's a bit about the general idea of what Tasktop does and how Tasktop can help you with your traceability and compliance within the automotive space. And so now I'm going to hand it back to Adam to talk a bit more specifically about the compliance and traceability challenges that Codebeamer solves within the automotive space.
Thank you, Trevor. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, that's great. So as Trevor just said, automotive products are always the results of intensive collaboration. That's kind of basic characteristics of automotive development, where multiple components are developed in parallel. Since automotive embedded products are used in the safety critical applications, safety is really important. To ensure safety of the products, a number of regulatory standards have been created, and these requirements maintain the high quality of the product and also the development process of these automotive products. Obviously, the clear documentation and traceability is also vital, so all the intensive collaboration across the development life cycle needs to happen in a way that is compliant with the requirements of automotive regulations. I assume that there are quite a few automotive experts in the audience, so I don't want to go into much details about the standards, but let me give you a quick overview what we are going to be focusing on today. So the first item on the list is the ISO 26262 standard, which is one of the most important standards, and it covers the entire life cycle of automotive safety systems. And The standard describes a safety life cycle for automotive products, and a major part of it is the process that helps determine risk classes, automotive safety integrity levels, and the necessary safety measures to reach an acceptable risk level. If we go up one level, there's the IEC 61508, the General Functional Safety Standard. It is used in a bunch of other safety critical industries beside automotive, and ISO 26262 is derived from it for the automotive industry specifically. The IEC standard also has a risk-based approach to safety-related system design. It specifies a safety life cycle, and just like ISO 26262, this one also defines 4 safety integrity levels, with each level representing a stricter degree of safety regulations. And the next important guideline is the Automotive SPICE, which is a set of technical documents that guide software development processes, and its general aim is to make safety and reliability an organization-wide priority in automotive companies. And the last item in the list, the capability maturity model integration, the CMMI, which is connected to process maturity and is somewhat similar to ASPICE in terms that it helps organizations optimize processes and align them with business goals. Okay, so what exactly do these standards require automotive developers to do? In general, automotive standards require the need for consistency, transparency, and traceability across the life cycle, from high-level requirements down to the source code. And they also require mature development methods and processes, comprehensive risk management and quality assurance, and of course, clear documentation of artifacts and processes through the life cycle. So basically, the main requirements shared by most standards are traceability, process control, quality management, and documentation. These standards try to ensure that all the processes you use during development are mature and have no inconsistencies. They actually prescribe that all work items are traced as they move across their life cycle, and that an audit trail is recorded about them. Connected to the documentation and audit, let me mention the reporting, which is not a requirement, but it can make the audit process way easier. I believe we all know that audits cost a lot of money and time, so good reports can go a long way in cutting costs. At compliance audits, you as a developer will also have to prove that mature development and QA processes were used through the life cycle. And the fact that you are able to simply present complete documentation to auditors makes it easier for them to understand the processes you've used. We at Intland are experiencing that these things are getting more and more important for companies in safety critical industries, and especially in automotive development, where there is an increase of use of application lifecycle management tools such as Codebeamer. I would say these tools help companies with their processes, documentation, and compliance efforts, and enable them to save time and cost in product development and compliance. So for automotive developers, Codebeamer offers quite a few essential capabilities. To start with, Codebeamer has pre-configured templates like Intland's Automotive, ISO 26262, and ASPICE template, which supports compliance, and it is easy to customize. Codebeamer is a fully integrated and collaborative platform with features that cover the entire lifecycle. It also has an open architecture, which means that it not only offers built-in integrations with quite a few software tools, but it also features a flexible REST API, and this API actually lets you create custom integrations, and of course the tool is connected to the Tasktop integration hub. So no matter how fragmented your toolchain is, any and all the data across the entire life cycle may be managed in Codebeamer ALM. In addition to being open, the system is also very flexible, so you can easily tailor Codebeamer to your internal processes and needs. The tool provides a gapless end-to-end traceability, and with the built-in traceability browser, all this is very easy to filter and to report on. Furthermore, we have new features which came with the newest release. That this is the baselining and branching feature, which lets you create and manage multiple snapshots and development streams. You can easily compare these branches and baselines together, and upon merging branches, you even have complete control over what gets merged and what doesn't. We also have an advanced risk management and quality assurance and testing features, which help you maintain high product quality with built-in FMEA capabilities. And the audit trail reports that I already mentioned make compliance audits a smoother process. It is important to add as well that Codebeamer is TÜV certified, and with Intland's tool validation package template, it's easy to validate it for use in automotive development. Okay, on this slide, there's an illustration that shows you how Codebeamer ALM covers all the processes required by ISO 26262 during the entire automotive lifecycle. As you can see, requirements, risk, and testing can be all managed in the system according to the standards process description. These items also can be connected to each other so that the traceability is guaranteed across the whole life cycle, and that's one of the features what I'm going to show you during the live demo. But let me help you understand how traceability works according to ASPICE process description. Since Codebeamer is a lifecycle-wide ALM tool, it manages requirements, test cases, and the testing process itself too. What does it mean? This means test results are also stored in the system, and this image gives you a quick overview of how the items are all linked together automatically in the system. So you can generate test cases from requirements, which automatically creates the relationship. This relationship between your work item is maintained through the lifecycle, and you will be notified of suspected links between items, and you will also be able to propagate changes to the items generated, enabling you to have consistency across the lifecycle. And the last slide, this is the last slide I have for you today, and this image is actually a screenshot from Codebeamer. It's basically an overview of suspected and actual links between items and safety integrity levels. And as you can see, Codebeamer also lets you keep track of controllability, exposure, and severity values. All this without any configuration, and it's all included in our automotive template. So that would be my part of the presentation. So I would be hand it over to Trevor to start the live demo.
All right, thank you very much, Adam. Can you see my screen yet?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so here is an example of an integration. I have HP ALM on the left, and I have Codebeamer on the right. I have already input a few requirements into HP ALM, and you'll notice that they're replicated over here into Codebeamer. So steering angle sensor, electrical engine, etc. You will notice that there's an extra requirement here at the bottom. Fully equipped models must be available under 2,000 euro. That's not over here on the HP ALM side. I'm sorry, excuse me, not on the Codebeamer side. And the reason is because I haven't sent it there. I've got this set up to filter out by things that are not reviewed. So in this scenario, you can imagine putting requirements into HP ALM, and only when they're ready to be sent over to Codebeamer, are they sent? And so the way we're sending these today is by setting the not reviews, the reviewed state to reviewed. And once that happens, you'll see very shortly here that the requirement is going to show up into Codebeamer. Make sure this is going across. All right, and so you can see now that this requirement that started off in HP now is showing up over here into Codebeamer. Additionally, I can make changes to the text, and I can even make comments on here. So and that information again will flow across to Codebeamer. I can go the other way as well. If I change something in Codebeamer, I can have it set up to flow back to HP ALM, which is quite good. So that each team, each individual can see the information from their tool of choice and have that information go bidirectionally. As well, you can add attachments. So you can see that here we have the suspension. There's an attachment with a suspension picture here. This suspension artifact here has an attachment with it as well. So now let me show you quickly how to set this up, because a lot of people think that this would take quite a bit of configuration to do. So here we have the Tasktop Integration Hub UI. You can see that I have this integration going from HP ALM to Codebeamer. You can set this up with multiple integrations, all attached or separate. As you can see here, I've got two sort of value streams going on. Let me drill into this exact integration and show you how it's basically set up. So I have the HP ALM flowing to Codebeamer, sending the requirements over. If you come to the Overview tab, you can see that I've got the new creations are going one direction. Setting bidirectional is quite straightforward. It's simply a click of a button. I've also got, you can set up which fields you want to flow. So a lot of times you don't want everything flowing across. You only want selected fields. We can allow for that. Routing of artifacts. So you want to make sure that the project in HP ALM is going to the specific tracker in Codebeamer to make sure that you have that association set up properly. We can allow for multiple mappings, if you will, within one integration. So if you have 10 different HP ALM projects, you can route those to 10 different trackers. You can also do many to one, etc. Let me drill in here to the filters. So this is how I can prevent something from flowing across. So we had the reviewed field in HP ALM that has to equal reviewed. If it doesn't flow. You can also add other sorts of fields. So you can say, I want the only things that are created after a certain date to flow across. And you can set these up going one or two directions. And then again, comments and attachments are quite straightforward. It's just two clicks to set up comments. The same thing for attachments. So with that, it's very straightforward to set up an integration going between two repositories. And so now, once we have our information over in Codebeamer, I'm going to hand it off to Adam to show exactly what it looks like from a Codebeamer user side once those requirements have been sent across. So Adam.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. So I'm going to start off with the starting page of the Codebeamer, where we can see the customer requirements, which has been transferred recently from HP with the help of the Tasktop tool. And I just had to refresh the page so I can see now this newly added requirement made by Trevor, but all the requirements have been made by him, because you can see this this tag here and the timestamp where he added this picture and comment. Okay, so just let me show you quickly that these requirements are not connected to any other existing object in the system through the traceability browser, and then I'm gonna connect them into existing one in the on different level of requirements. So this is our traceability browser, and here are all the requirements coming from HP side, and we can see that these are the levels I wanna highlight the connections between. And there's no connection so far. So if I go back to the customer requirement specification and looking for the system the customer requirement specification, I can check the requirements library, and I can select the requirements I wanted to connect to each other. So let's say I want to connect these navigation interface to the electrical engine. We can see this green box that the reference has been created between the items, and let's do another one, this default one to the steering sensor. Okay, it's successfully created again. And now if I go back to the traceability browser, we will see the connections down to the source code. This is the preset I'm using. These are the levels which we have predefined. So coming from the customer requirements through the system requirements, then the hardware software requirements, and the hardware software tasks down to the source commits, I will see the connections. Okay, so it's refreshing. Okay, so the first items are still not connected, which is normal. And here I can see the electrical engine is connected to the navigation interface, which I just created recently, and I can see all the connections down to the source code level. Here are the suspected links, what I've already talked during my presentation. So if I change any of the higher requirements, it's gonna turn into red, and I need to check this item if it's still consistent or not. And the other thing further to that, to mention that Codebeamer is not only managing requirements and tasks, we also managing test cases and testing related functions. And if I go into this tracker, which is the hardware safety requirements, I can show the test coverage view or test coverage browser, and I can see all the informations and statistics connected to this tracker in a table view. And if I go down below, I can expand this tree structure, and I can see the items and the connected test cases and test runs and their statuses. So basically, this is what I wanted to show you today, and I'm going to hand it back to Trevor, and you can moderate the conversation further.
All right. Thank you very much, Adam. Appreciate that. So yeah, so with that demo and presentation, you can see that really the road to a unified value stream, automotive value stream, really comprises three things, right? One, the fact that multiple vendors, multiple teams is an inevitable fact of life in this space, and that there will be different tools used in different teams. So using the best of breed in whatever space you're in. And then so to successfully have a successful supply chain automation, you need to have collaboration, visibility, and traceability, and we are here to help with that. So with that being said, if anybody has questions, please put them in the comment box, the chat box, and Laurel will moderate. For more information, you can go to www.intland.com contact or go.tasktop.com/contact us. So with that, we'll hand it back to Laurel.
Great, thank you so much, Trevor and Adam. We did have a couple questions come in, and I will get those out to you now. So our first question is, what if I don't want to connect Codebeamer to HP ALM? What if I have a requirement coming from a different tool?
I'll take that one. Thank you. Yeah, the great question. So Tasktop has connections, integrates close to 60 different tools. And so one of the things about us is that we're not limited to a single point-to-point. So any of those tools can connect to any of the others. So if you have a requirements tool that's not HP ALM, that's not a problem at all. You can definitely flow your requirements from that tool to Codebeamer, and you can go to our website to see what all different what endpoints we support. So thank you.
Awesome. And our next question is, does Codebeamer provide any reporting features to help me prove that my processes are compliant?
Yeah, sure. Codebeamer has a lot of reporting options. We are providing wiki pages, and beside the wiki pages, we have dashboards, and in these dashboards pages, you can add widgets to visualize any kind of information coming from the database. So yeah, that's absolutely possible to report.
Great. And our last question is, do you have any experiences with tool qualification? An example, how long does it generate your users to validate Codebeamer for use in automotive development?
Csak a validation kit.
Yeah, actually, we have a validation kit we just developed, and it's available for our customers. So yeah, we have a tool like that. Okay,
great. Well, thank you so much again, Adam and Trevor, for taking the time for this webinar. If you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact Intland or Tasktop. As a reminder, we will be sending the recording and slide deck for this webinar out tomorrow. And thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you very much, Laurel. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.